Have you ever met someone whose vibe just feels different? There's something about how they carry themselves, an unspoken confidence, a hint of mystery. But what if there's more to it? What if the way a woman reacts, speaks, or even just holds herself shows a whole history of experiences she hasn't shared? Today, we're diving into the 13 secret signs that she's been with a lot of people. Subtle clues that most people miss. But when you catch on, they can say a lot about her past. These aren't just random things. She'll totally admit it, but those signs are right there in front of you. Whether it's how she talks about her relationships, the emotional boundaries she sets, or how comfortable she is with intimacy, each little thing gives you a peek into a more complicated backstory. This isn't about judging anyone. It's about really getting human nature and the subtle hints that influence how we interact. By recognizing these signs, you can dive into relationships with more awareness and empathy. So, if you're ready to discover what's really going on beneath the surface, the reasons behind her behavior, make sure to subscribe and join the Stoic Advisor community. Let's get into it. One clear sign that a woman might have had a lot of intimate experiences is emotional detachment. This doesn't mean she's cold or distant. It's more about her figuring out how to protect her feelings. For some women, especially those who've been in multiple relationships or had various intimate encounters, separating their emotions from physical experiences becomes a way of coping. Think about self-preservation. In the early days of a relationship, everything's super intense. There's excitement, vulnerability, and a strong connection. But for someone who's been through a bunch of relationships, that initial emotional spark might not hit the same way anymore. Instead, she might seem more laid back and composed. She'll laugh at jokes and chat easily, but you can tell there's a bit of distance in her eyes, like she's built an emotional wall over time. This doesn't mean she's not interested. It's more like a way she's learned to cope from her past. Stoic philosophy shows us how important it is to be emotionally strong, to step back from temporary feelings and accept things as they are. For this woman, it's not so much about not caring, but about having control over her emotions. She's probably had to learn this to manage her feelings, especially in situations that used to really get to her. Stronger reactions might come at her from all over the place, but she stays chill, not letting outside stuff get to her. This emotional detachment shows up in how she handles intimacy too. She might be cool with casual hookups without getting all emotionally tied up in them like most people do. Being able to keep her feelings separate from physical intimacy lets her have fun without feeling exposed or too invested. It's not that she doesn't care. She's just figured out how to guard herself against getting hurt. The emotional fallout from casual relationships can be tough, but just because she seems detached doesn't mean she can't have deep connections or real intimacy. It just means she's learned to manage her feelings really well. For her, that control is a way to protect herself and keep things balanced in a world that can get pretty chaotic. In short, her emotional detachment is a clear sign that she's been through the ups and downs of love and relationships and knows how to handle it. She stays calm and steady through emotional ups and downs, and she's totally at ease with who she is. One big giveaway that a woman has had a lot of intimate experiences is how effortlessly comfortable she is in her own skin. It's not just about looks, it's about how she presents herself, the confidence in her posture, and how she commands the space around her in any room. A woman with plenty of intimate experiences usually has a solid, unshakable confidence. Self-awareness means recognizing the beauty and strength in both her body and mind. Confidence stands out here. When you talk to her, you can see she doesn't need anyone else's approval. Whether it's her body language, how she dresses, or the way she talks about herself. She radiates a calm confidence that comes from truly knowing herself. She's at ease with both her strengths and weaknesses, which helps her be fully engaged in any situation. This kind of confidence isn't just for show. It's not something you pick up overnight. It takes time and comes from all the different experiences and relationships she's been through. The Stoics talk a lot about self-mastery, basically. Being in control of yourself, not based on what others think, but from a strong sense of who you are inside. For a woman who's been through a lot of relationships, this self-mastery shows in how she presents herself. She probably doesn't need constant validation or approval anymore. She's found peace with who she is and where she's been. It's made her who she is, and it's also given her the strength to fully accept herself without any excuses. This confidence goes beyond just her mindset. It shows in how she carries herself physically too. A woman who feels good in her own skin isn't just mentally or emotionally confident, she's physically confident as well. She understands her body, its rhythms, and what it wants. For her, intimacy isn't about feeling insecure or doubting her value. It's a chance to fully embrace and celebrate who she is. She's not afraid to show her sensual side or to be vulnerable in different ways. That feeling of freedom isn't just about looking confident on the outside. It comes from all the lessons she's learned, the times she's reflected on herself, and being able to accept who she is, both her strengths and her flaws. She's worked through the ups and downs of intimacy, and because of that, she's really comfortable in her own skin. This shows that she's been through a lot and knows what it really means to be herself. Self-acceptance and self-love, in a nutshell. The way she carries herself with such ease and authenticity really shows how far she's come. She's learned to be comfortable in her own skin, not because she's perfect, but because she's embraced every part of herself. Plus, she has high standards and expectations. A big sign that a woman has had a lot of meaningful experiences is when she holds herself to those high standards, whether it's in relationships, friendships, or even casual hookups. She's been through a lot of relationships and intimate moments, so she really knows what she wants and what she doesn't. After figuring things out through trial and error, she's got a good knack for spotting who and what she wants in her life. In the beginning, she might have been more laid back, letting some things slide or ignoring red flags. But now, with experience, she's gained wisdom and knows how to set boundaries to keep her emotional, mental, and physical well-being safe. She's not putting up with mediocrity anymore and knows her time, energy, and love are precious. It's not just about looks or money for her. It's way deeper than that. She's got higher standards for what a meaningful connection looks like. She wants respect, emotional maturity, and compatibility. She gets that intimacy isn't just about being physically attracted. It's about trust, honesty, and being emotionally available. She's learned all this over time. She's gone through different kinds of relationships. Some didn't last long, while others changed her life. The key takeaway is that she's learned to be picky, not just for her own comfort, but for her peace of mind. The Stoics remind us that having self-control and being discerning are vital for living a good life. A woman with high standards really practices this discipline. She's got the skill of saying no when she needs to, knowing that true value isn't found in. She doesn't focus on having a lot of relationships. Instead, she values the quality of them. Her connections are intentional and based on mutual respect and understanding. She also has high expectations for herself, whether it's about her actions, personal growth, or goals. She aims for personal excellence and expects the same from the people she chooses to be around. She's not the type to just go with the flow in love or life. She actively seeks what she wants. She wants relationships that match her true values, desires, and goals. At the heart of her high standards is a strong sense of self-worth. After going through a lot, she knows her value and believes she deserves the best. Anything less just isn't worth her time. It's not arrogance, it's confidence. She knows what she's been through and what she's capable of. She's figured out that compromise is one thing, but settling is another. In short, her high standards reflect that. Her boundaries aren't just a way to protect herself. They show how much she's grown, how wise she is, and how she wants to be around people and experiences that lift her up. She's totally cool with talking about sex. One clear sign that a woman has had a lot of intimate experiences is how relaxed she is when the topic comes up. In many social circles, discussing physical intimacy can make people awkward or defensive, but for her, sex is just no big deal. It's just another part of the chat, as casual and ordinary as talking about the weather or what you did that day. This relaxed attitude doesn't mean she disrespects the topic or the people she's with. It's just how her experiences shape her. A woman who's had a lot of close encounters probably doesn't feel the same awkwardness or societal pressure around talking about sex. She's likely used to discussing it openly, having seen it in different situations. Talking about the subject openly and without shame shows how she views sex as just a normal, personal part of life. The Stoics say that real peace comes when we stop letting outside events shake our calm. When it comes to sex, a lot of people feel shame, guilt, or defensiveness because of how society trains us to think. But for her, those feelings have faded away. She doesn't see the topic as something to judge or feel uncomfortable about because she's embraced it as part of life. Human nature is just like anything else in life. It needs balance and understanding. The way she talks about sex shows how comfortable she is with herself. She's not trying to prove anything or justify her past. She doesn't apologize for the choices she's made or the relationships she's been in. This level of comfort comes from truly accepting herself, where the shame and embarrassment that can affect others just don't bother her. For some people, talking about sex can bring up a lot of feelings. She feels vulnerable or insecure sometimes, but when it comes to talking about her past, she's pretty chill about it. She can share her experiences or listen to others without feeling judged or threatened. It's like she's removed the emotional baggage from those conversations so she can discuss them without getting all worked up. This relaxed attitude shows she has a healthy, balanced view of her own sexuality. Basically, she can talk casually about sex without any drama. Feeling comfortable and at ease shows a level of maturity that comes from knowing herself, her body, and what she wants. It's not that sex is less important to her. It just means she doesn't let it determine who she is or her value. She's moved past societal taboos and accepted it as part of her journey. She's in charge of her own experiences. One clear sign that a woman has had a lot of intimate experiences is her ability to handle any situation with confidence. This doesn't mean she's controlling in a bad way. It's about her calm and confident leadership and how she stays composed in social, professional, or personal situations. A woman who's been through a lot of relationships often learns to manage not just her emotions, but also the circumstances around her in romantic contexts. This control shows up as her being the one who sets the pace. She doesn't let the situation control her mood or actions, whether she's taking the lead or deciding where things go. In a relationship, she knows what she wants and how to steer things in that direction. It doesn't mean she's bossy. It's just that she has a strong sense of self and can confidently express her needs and desires. She stays calm under pressure and can handle the ups and downs of any situation, knowing when to take a step back and when to stand her ground. Stoic philosophy teaches that real strength comes from self-control and wisdom, not from trying to manipulate what's going on around you. A woman who's been through a lot, she really gets this whole idea. She doesn't look for approval or power from others. She's totally cool with who she is and what she wants. That confidence helps her handle social situations with ease and assurance. Whether she's at a party, a family get-together, or just hanging out with friends, she doesn't hesitate to step up when needed. She knows how to steer a conversation, make choices, and direct interactions without coming off as pushy. Her need to be in control comes from her confidence. She knows exactly who she is, what she wants, and how to get it without making anyone feel awkward or pressured. This level of control shows she really gets the idea of boundaries. She knows how to take care of herself, both emotionally and physically, whether she's in a serious relationship or just having a casual fling. She understands that real power comes from knowing her limits and expressing them clearly. She won't let anyone push past those boundaries, and in return, others respect that. Respect her because she expects it from herself and others in close relationships. This control can also show up in how she handles intimacy. She knows how to deal with the ups and downs of both physical and emotional closeness, setting the right vibe and keeping clear boundaries that promote mutual respect. It's not about being bossy or controlling. It's about confidently sharing what she wants, making choices that support her well-being, and making sure her needs are met without second-guessing. Guilt, in a nutshell, is about a woman who's got a handle on things. She's figured out how to own her space, her relationships, and her feelings through what she's been through. She's learned to lead with grace, making sure her life plays out the way she wants it to. Plus, she steers clear of labels and titles. If a woman tends to shy away from calling someone her boyfriend, girlfriend, or partner, it's a good sign she's had her fair share of close experiences. She likes to keep her relationships flexible and open-ended. For her, labels can feel restrictive and old-fashioned, and she doesn't feel like they fit her anymore. It's not that she's not interested or emotionally detached. She just gets that relationships are complicated. From her experiences, she's realized that just giving someone a title doesn't really capture how meaningful or deep the connection is. Labels often come with a lot of expectations and pressures. For someone who's been through different romantic and intimate experiences, she's learned to value the realness of a relationship over any outside labels. Stoic philosophy teaches us not to tie our identity to external labels or what society expects. A true sense of self comes from within, not from what others think or the roles we're given. Likewise, a woman who's had a variety of experiences might feel that relationships, they're too complex to be boiled down to a single label. She gets that her connection with someone can change over time, and putting a title on it might hold back that natural growth. By skipping the labels, she keeps things flexible and lets her relationships unfold in their own way. Plus, she values her individuality. In the past, she might have felt the pressure to stick to relationship norms or fit into a certain role, but she's figured out that she doesn't have to do that. She doesn't feel like she has to fit into any specific box to have meaningful experiences. She's cool with the idea that her relationships and encounters don't need to follow society's rules. What really matters to her is the connection itself and whether it matches her values and desires. Not using labels shows her independence. She doesn't need validation from others to feel good about herself or her relationships. She gets that her worth isn't tied to a label or a traditional relationship setup. She can have deep, meaningful relationships without needing to put a label on them. What really matters is the mutual respect, understanding, and shared experiences they have, not the titles they give each other. Basically, avoiding labels shows maturity and self-awareness. It means she's been through the ups and downs of love and intimacy and values the real connection over the usual labels society tries to put on them. Plus, she's not as likely to flaunt it. One of the biggest signs that a woman has had a lot of intimate experiences is that she tends to be less open about her vulnerabilities. While she might share some parts of herself, she's usually more guarded when it comes to showing her deeper emotions. This doesn't mean she can't be vulnerable. It just shows that she's learned how to protect herself and handle her relationships with some emotional boundaries. After going through several relationships, she might have had her fair share of emotional ups and downs. Sometimes, going through tough times doesn't always lead to good things. Experiences like heartbreak, disappointment, or betrayal can really show you how important it is to protect your feelings. Because of this, she might be more careful about when she lets herself be open and vulnerable. Stoic philosophy highlights the need to keep your emotions in check, reminding us to stay strong when life gets tough and not to get too attached to temporary feelings. A woman who's been through all this, a lot of relationships or hookups, teach you that not everyone or every situation deserves you to open up completely. She's figured out to save her vulnerability for those who have earned her trust, or for the times when it's really important to share her feelings. Her emotional reserve doesn't mean she's cold. It actually shows that she's wise and knows how to protect herself. She gets that being vulnerable can be tricky. It can bring people closer, but it can also backfire. It can make her vulnerable, so she's careful about who she lets into her emotional space and how much she shows. This emotional caution also shows up in her close relationships. She might keep some emotional distance even when getting physically intimate. She could be fine with the physical side of things, but isn't likely to share the deeper, more personal stuff that needs emotional trust. Being able to keep that boundary is a big deal for her. She's got a real knack for emotional intelligence and knows how to handle intimacy on her own terms. She balances being physically close with making sure she protects her feelings. This cautiousness is really just her way of looking out for herself, a reaction she's picked up from past experiences where being open emotionally either didn't get the same back or left her vulnerable. By keeping her emotions in check, she feels more in control and safe, steering clear of the hurt that comes with being too open. She's not really emotionally closed off, but she's careful about who she opens up to. It's not that she's not vulnerable. She just knows when and with whom to share her feelings. This kind of emotional control shows the wisdom she's picked up from her experiences, helping her guard her heart while still having good, meaningful relationships. Also, when she talks about past partners, she does it in a pretty detached way. That's one clear sign she might have had a lot of intimate experiences. The way she talks about her exes is pretty matter-of-fact, like she's just sharing stories without any real feelings attached. That usually means she's been in enough relationships to have developed some emotional distance. She can share her experiences without getting all wrapped up in them like others might do when they talk about their past. It doesn't mean she doesn't respect her exes. It just shows how she's grown and moved on. She went through a bunch of different relationships, and each one helped her understand herself and other people better. Over time, these experiences gave her perspective and emotional strength. so now she can talk about them as casually as you'd chat about an old friend or a distant memory. Stoic philosophy reminds us to accept that things don't last forever and not to hold on to past connections, whether they're people, things, or feelings. She's been through a lot. A lot of people in relationships have figured this out. She gets that people come and go, and just because a relationship ends doesn't mean it has to hurt or leave you all messed up emotionally. She's learned to look at breakups as a normal part of life, not something to dwell on forever. This attitude probably comes from her experience. She knows how important it is to keep her emotions in check and isn't easily swept up by nostalgia or old feelings when she talks about her past. She might talk about her past partners without any strong feelings, just recognizing them as part of her journey. She doesn't need to dig up all the emotions tied to those relationships because she's already worked through them and moved on. The way she can discuss her past shows she's emotionally mature. She gets that those experiences, good or bad, helped her grow, but they don't define who she is anymore. She's figured out that holding on to the past, even the highs and lows, isn't helpful. Her past relationships don't hold her back from moving on and trying new things. When she talks about her exes without getting emotional, it's not because she doesn't care. It's actually a sign of her emotional freedom. She's learned from her past, accepted it, and moved on. This kind of clarity comes from experience and knowing that relationships don't last forever. In short, her way of discussing old partners shows she has a healthy emotional distance that helps her. She knows how to live in the moment without letting her past drag her down. It shows a woman who has handled her relationships wisely and now focuses on the present, free from old memories. She's not scared to walk away from things that aren't good for her, whether it's a relationship, friendship, or even a casual fling. She's ready to let go of anything that doesn't bring value to her life, no matter how tough it might be. No matter how emotional it might look to others, for her, sticking around in a toxic or unsatisfying situation just isn't an option. She's fearless about walking away because of everything she's been through. After dealing with enough relationships and experiences, she knows how crucial it is to set boundaries and take care of her mental health. She's learned that staying in a relationship just because you feel obligated, scared of being alone, or wanting to dodge conflict only ends up creating frustration and resentment. Burnout made her realize the importance of trusting her instincts and knowing when to take a break. The Stoics say we should stay detached from things we can't control and focus on what we can. For her, having dealt with a lot of relationships, this mindset helps her let go when something doesn't match her values or goals anymore. She doesn't hang on to a relationship just because it used to make her happy or comfortable. Instead, she knows when it's time to move on. She's all about embracing new chances to grow and find personal happiness. Her knack for walking away shows how emotionally strong she is. She doesn't shy away from the temporary awkwardness of ending a relationship or moving on from a situation. Instead, she sees it as a way to grow and make room for things that fit her needs and dreams better. She gets that a little short-term pain can be essential for finding long-term happiness and fulfillment in close relationships. Her fearlessness shows in how she's willing to end things when a connection isn't healthy or up to her standards. She doesn't waste time trying to fix what's broken, and she won't stick around in situations where her feelings aren't returned. She values her time and energy too much to settle for anything less than she deserves. Whether it's a casual fling or a serious relationship, she knows when to walk away and isn't scared to do it. This decisiveness shows how much she respects herself. Her worth isn't dependent on anyone or any relationship. She's not scared of being alone or dealing with the awkwardness of leaving things behind. In fact, she sees solitude as a chance to reflect and grow. She knows it's better to be single and happy than to stay in a relationship that doesn't bring her peace and joy. Basically, her ability to walk away shows that she knows how to put herself first instead of being afraid of the unknown. Letting go of things that don't help her anymore is a strong act of self-love, and her emotional freedom is way more important than holding on to the past or staying in relationships that don't fit her path. She doesn't rush into commitment. One clear sign that a woman has had a lot of intimate experiences is that she takes her time with commitment. She doesn't jump into relationships or push for exclusivity too soon. Instead, she really values the process of getting to know someone. It's important to take the time to figure out if you're a good match and to respect each other before jumping into anything serious. For a woman who's been in a lot of relationships, she knows that commitment isn't something you just dive into. She gets that real intimacy and connection take time to grow, and rushing into a serious relationship usually ends up with disappointment or drama. She knows that solid relationships are all about trust, understanding, and emotional support. Being ready isn't just about wanting to be close or feeling rushed by what society expects. This thoughtful approach shows emotional maturity. Through her experiences, she's figured out that jumping into commitment can mess with her judgment and cross her personal boundaries. In the past, she might have rushed in because of excitement or pressure, only to find out that the relationship wasn't what she really needed. Over time, she's learned that being patient and discerning is crucial for building a healthy, lasting bond. The Stoics say that she should try not to act on impulse and think things through before making decisions. For a woman who's been through different relationships, this wise approach is something she really gets. She's not easily influenced by romantic urges or the need to put a label on things just for the sake of it. Instead, she focuses on what really matters and takes her time to figure out if a person and the relationship match her values, goals, and emotional needs. She knows how to avoid rushing into things. Her commitment shows that she's confident and doesn't need a relationship to define who she is or her self-worth. She's cool with herself and doesn't feel like she has to follow the usual timeline society expects, like moving in together, getting engaged, or being exclusive. She understands that commitment should happen when both people are ready, not just because one person is in a hurry. This laid-back attitude usually results in healthier and more stable relationships. She takes her time to build a strong foundation of trust, respect, and emotional connection before fully committing. She's good at spotting red flags early on, which helps her avoid mistakes that can come from jumping into things too fast. She doesn't just settle for a relationship to avoid being single or out of fear of missing out. She's picky and deliberate, knowing that the right commitment will come when the timing and the person are right. Basically, her hesitation to rush into a commitment shows she's emotionally smart. Wisdom and maturity show a woman who's learned from her past relationships. She values herself enough to wait for the right connection and understands that the best relationships take time to grow. By moving at her own pace, she makes sure that when she does commit, it's real, lasting, and in line with her own growth and values. She shows little jealousy, which is a big sign that she's had a lot of intimate experiences. She just doesn't get jealous in her relationships. While a lot of people might get insecure or feel threatened when their partner talks to others, a woman who's been through different relationships usually feels confident in herself and the bond she has with her partner. She doesn't let jealousy mess with her feelings. It's not that she doesn't care, it's more about her emotional growth and confidence. She understands that trust and respect are key to any real connection, and she doesn't feel the need to control things. She doesn't try to control her partner's interactions with others because she knows her worth. She understands that her value doesn't rely on always needing validation or comparing herself to others. This emotional freedom comes from her past experiences. She's learned that jealousy just leads to insecurity, mistrust, and unnecessary drama. Whether it was from her own insecurities in past relationships or seeing how jealousy can destroy trust, she knows that a healthy relationship is all about mutual respect, understanding, and freedom, not being possessive or controlling. The Stoics highlight the need to accept what we can't control and focus on our own actions and reactions. A woman who's been in a lot of relationships really gets this. She doesn't try to control what her partner does or keep tabs on every little thing. Instead, she puts her energy into building the trust and bond they've created, knowing that jealousy will just tear that trust apart. Her absence of jealousy shows this too. She's got a strong sense of self-confidence. She doesn't view others as competition. She sees them as people with their own lives, goals, and relationships. Her self-worth isn't tied to being the center of attention or the only one her partner focuses on. She gets that a healthy relationship lets both partners be themselves while also having a close connection. This lack of jealousy creates a vibe of mutual respect and freedom, so her partner doesn't feel trapped or smothered. Since she knows she's trusted and respected, she doesn't feel the need to hold on tight to the relationship out of fear of losing it. She understands that the strongest relationships are based on freedom, trust, and the idea that both partners can be their own selves without jealousy getting in the way. Basically, her ability to feel little or no jealousy shows she's emotionally mature, confident, and has a healthier view of relationships. It shows she's learned that true security in love comes from that kind of mindset. Trust, not control, is what this is all about, and her value comes from how she sees herself, not from what others think. She's read up on relationships, and a big sign that a woman has had a lot of close experiences is that she's knowledgeable about them. She goes out of her way to learn about communication, emotional intelligence, attachment styles, and how to resolve conflicts. This thoughtful way of looking at relationships makes her stand out because she doesn't just go on gut feelings or outside opinions. She really wants to understand. She's really into understanding the deeper side of human connections, both from her own experiences and what she's learned. Her passion for reading and learning about relationships isn't because she's insecure or unsure of herself. It actually shows how dedicated she is to bettering herself and building healthier connections. She gets that every relationship, whether it's casual or serious, is a chance to grow, and she's purposeful about picking up the skills and knowledge she needs to handle those dynamics well, using books and articles. Through relationship-focused podcasts and seminars, she's really grasped what makes relationships thrive. She's figured out that they need communication, patience, empathy, and understanding instead of clinging to outdated myths or fairy tale ideas about love. She's also picked up on the practical side of making relationships work and how to tell when they're no longer fulfilling. Stoic philosophy teaches that knowledge and wisdom are key to personal growth. A person who's well-versed in relationships really lives by this idea. They put in the time and effort to learn about themselves, what they need, and what others need. They're not just guessing or making assumptions about their emotional health. Instead, they actively figure out how to keep things healthy, set boundaries, and work through conflicts. Their deep understanding also helps them see how complex human behavior can be. They don't simplify people. She gets that everyone is influenced by their past experiences, fears, and desires. She's more understanding and less quick to judge because she knows that relationships need patience and empathy. This deeper insight helps her steer clear of unnecessary drama or misunderstandings, since she can spot patterns and behaviors that others might miss. Basically, being knowledgeable about relationships shows a woman who's not just smart, but also really cares about understanding and bettering her connections with others. She doesn't take relationships lightly. She approaches them with curiosity, wisdom, and a desire for mutual growth. This mindset helps her engage in healthier, more fulfilling connections and sets a high bar for the partners she looks for. She has this mysterious vibe about her, which is one of the most captivating signs that she's had a lot of intimate experiences. She doesn't lay everything out on the table right away. She prefers to share bits of herself gradually. She only shares bits and pieces of her thoughts, feelings, and experiences, which leaves people curious and wanting to know more. This air of mystery isn't a ploy. It's just a natural outcome of her confidence and emotional smarts, gained from her past relationships. Having been through different connections, she gets that she doesn't have to let everyone in on every detail of her life. She knows how important it is to keep some things private, whether it's about her feelings, her background, or her plans for the future. Being distant or secretive isn't a bad thing. It just shows she knows how to set healthy boundaries and respects herself. She doesn't feel the need to share everything just to get people's approval. The Stoics remind us to protect our inner peace and not let outside stuff mess with it. A woman who's been through a lot of relationships really gets this. She knows how to keep her feelings and thoughts in check and doesn't let them overflow into every chat. She realizes that vulnerability is something special. She doesn't just open up to anyone, she shares bits of herself only with those she really trusts and when it feels right. That air of mystery around her shows how confident she is in who she is. She doesn't need everyone to get her completely to feel good about herself. She's at ease with who she is and knows that not everyone has to know her whole story to see her value. In fact, it's that sense of privacy and her reserved vibe that makes her even more intriguing. And people can't help but be drawn to her. Not because she's playing hard to get, but because they feel there's a lot more to her than what meets the eye. It takes time to really get to know her, and that air of mystery keeps things exciting. It stops her from being predictable, which helps the relationship stay fresh and prevents it from getting boring or taken for granted. She keeps her partner curious, always revealing new sides of herself, her wants and her dreams. This sense of mystery allows for growth and excitement in the relationship. It's all about keeping a balance between staying emotionally connected and not getting too comfortable, which can make things a bit dull. The way she keeps an air of mystery shows just how emotionally intelligent and self-aware she is. She gets that to really stand out, you need to have your own depth and uniqueness. By valuing her privacy, she stays interesting and keeps people guessing. Her worth isn't just in what she puts out there, but also in what she holds back. She keeps to herself, but in the end, the signs we've talked about aren't just about labeling a woman or simplifying her to a bunch of traits. They're really reflections of a deeper wisdom, emotional maturity, and self-awareness that comes from experience. A woman who shows these qualities has probably learned important lessons from her past relationships, both romantic and otherwise. She knows who she is, what she wants, and maybe even more importantly, what she doesn't need. She's emotionally self-reliant and confident in her individuality. She's not afraid to walk away from situations that aren't good for her anymore. Whether it's setting boundaries, dodging jealousy, or taking her time before committing. She gets that real happiness comes from knowing herself first, not from seeking validation from others. Her vibe of being a bit mysterious and not showing too much vulnerability doesn't make her distant or cold. It just makes her an interesting person who respects herself and values her peace and growth. If you want to reach that same level of emotional maturity and wisdom, you can learn a lot from her. Keep in mind that real strength comes from being self-aware, patient, and understanding, just like the Stoics taught us about finding emotional balance. Learn something from every relationship, and most importantly, always put your own well-being first. If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe to Stoic Advisor for more content that helps you live a more intentional and balanced life. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update on how to apply Stoic principles to your own journey. Until next time, embrace wisdom. Build your strength and live with intention.